So I got a comment on a video recently, and that comment definitely colored what this video is going to be. You have no idea. The original comment, and I'll bring it up right here, is from the Fox King. It was when I was pointing out that I don't like Ben Shapiro because he has an agenda. I'm making a video about him to give my opinion. The Fox King, and again, as with all these, please do not go and harass this person, but he says, simply put, Suris, sometimes it's not I'm making a video about Shapiro to give my opinion. Sometimes it's I'm openly hating on Shapiro for his beliefs because they do not align with mine. My thumbnail and title includes a political figure with far more subscribers and viewers than I do, in hopes that I will get me views. Sometimes it begins and ends with money. You're right. Sometimes it does begin and end with money. I believe that with Ben Shapiro, while his ideology may be a part of things, I think that a lot of it begins and ends with money. He does what he does because it makes him money. He responds the way he does to things because it makes him money. I understand that that idea may be alien to you, but Ben Shapiro makes money off of the things he does. So it stands to reason there's an aspect of it that's him doing it for money. Now, as for openly hating on Shapiro and his beliefs, I'm not hating on Shapiro. I'm critiquing his content. I believe that I should be perfectly able to critique his content. I don't see there as being anything wrong with critiquing somebody else's viewpoint. I feel like freedom of speech, lovely thing that it is, should be there for that purpose, so that I can critique his content. Secondly, on the note of putting Ben Shapiro in the thumbnail and putting his name in the title, first thing, the video's literally about Ben. If the video is literally about Ben, who the fuck do you think I should put in the title? Who should I put in the thumbnail? Should I just grab a random dude off the street and be like, okay, cool, to make sure there's no bias in this thumbnail, I'll go ahead and put a random guy on the screen instead, and they'll be my subject, even though they're not who I'm talking about in the video. I feel like for accuracy's sake, it's actually better for me to, you know, have Ben Shapiro's face there. But also, you're not entirely wrong. I'm going to actually give you a little bit of credence. You are somewhat correct when you say that, oh, it can be about the money. For me, my channel is my job. 110%. My channel is how I get to survive. There is an aspect of this that will always be about survival. The type of content I produce is not about survival. The amount of it I produce, that's the aspect of it that's about survival. For me. But if you want to say, what was it? My thumbnail and title includes a political figure with more subscribers in hopes that I will get more views. You're actually not entirely wrong. You're not entirely wrong. There is one aspect of I am covering Ben Shapiro specifically because he says things that I disagree with, and I need to respond to that in video form because I'm a content creator and that's how I respond to things. But also, you're kind of right. The reason that I went after Ben specifically, not the reason why he's in the thumbnail and title. He's in the thumbnail and title because he's literally the subject of the video. That's how making subjects for videos works. Going after people like Ben Shapiro, though, is entirely about trying to get more views. I am a content creator on YouTube. Ideas that I think are important do not proliferate unless those ideas are seen and heard by people. And for those ideas to be seen and heard by people, yes, there are methods we have to use to make that happen. If the method is criticizing a political figure whom I disagree with, then that's the method that's going to be utilized. Apologies if that's too complicated for you, but that's how things work. But with this massive preamble out of the way, let's get into the fan art section 5 minutes into the video. This one is from Satoki Nijikawa. Decided to draw more coins for practice using the Japanese yen as reference. Real happy with the 500 one. I'd be real happy if it quit. The next one we have is from a Nubian, Crimus Slime Suris. Oh, thank you. And the last one we have is from Axo that has cream. And it is part of a larger animation but it's taking forever, so here's a work in progress, according to Axel. Oh my god, I love that. I love the eyes. They look around. They are ready. As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it in the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. Hit the like button if you haven't already. All that other fun stuff. Maybe visit the Patreon. On to the Ben Shapiro video. I have to relive it.
What is your favorite argument for God's existence and why?
So my favorite argument for God's existence is that I believe in free will. Okay, the reason that I think this is an
Your reason for believing in God is just you believe in free will. You know that free will exists with or without a God, right? And come on, Ben. Let's go back to undermining your argument with your argument.
An argument for God's existence is because if you believe that human beings are essentially just balls of meat wandering around aimlessly in the universe, the kind of Spinoza's stone that thinks that it was moving of its own accord but actually was thrown, if you believe that and you don't believe in free will,
okay, so Spinoza's stone, that the idea that there is a stone that thinks it is moving but was actually pushed by somebody else, that is the type of scenario that we have with an all-powerful God, Ben, not without one. With an all-powerful, all-knowing God, we have a world where people feel as if their velocity is under their control, but actually they were tossed by God. If they skip across a lake, it's not because of their own volition, it's because God threw them. That's what we have in the world you believe in, not the world most of us believe in, not the world that atheists believe in, not the world that a lot of pagans believe in, and not the world that Christians who are willing to accept that their God may not be the greatest thing since sliced bread believe in. Largely, Ben. I feel as if your variant of God, you know, like I said before, kind of necessitates an absence of free will.
then there's an internal coherence and logic to it. If you believe that you have the ability to make independent choices, that you can actually supersede your own biological drives and the environment around you to any extent, even to the smallest extent, this means that you believe in something that can't actually be proved by science, but that you are living every single day.
So he's actually kind of right to an extent. We can't prove free will exists. We can't. We actually can't. He's actually, congratulations, Ben. You've done it. You are right. We can't prove free will exists. We also can't prove gravity exists, and yet if you jump off of a building, oh boy, will you experience its loving embrace. Just saying. We can't prove a lot of things that we necessarily exist with all the time. That doesn't necessarily mean, and therefore God.
And the notion that you have that will, and not only that you have that will, but that will is capable of comprehending the universe around you, that your will is sort of, your ideas, your ability to comprehend the universe is a reflection of a reality, of an objective truth that is out there, that says to me that there is a God, there's a common source that stands behind that objective truth and stands behind the mind that can comprehend that truth.
How, though? You skipped a bunch of steps, Ben. You skipped a bunch of steps. If people have free will, if they believe they have free will, then God. There was no logic there. There was nothing. That was literally just taking a step off of a skyrise and hoping to God there was something that you could get to on the other side, and then you just kind of fell. You just kind of fell, and in the impact you were like, aha, and then God. Ben, there were several floors on the way down. We need to know about the floors. What was the random woman showering in fucking floor 13 doing? I mean, showering, obviously. There was other things she was doing in the shower with things she got from DDLG Playground. We can't talk about those things, but Ben, you jumped down, and all the stuff that happened in between the impact at the end and you stepping off the building at the beginning, all that stuff's kind of important. All that stuff happened. There was naturally an amount of space that had to be moved through for you to get to the impact at the end. So when you're saying free will exists, therefore God, you've done only half the work. I would even say that you haven't done any of the work. if you say free will exists, well, it's a thing we can't prove, but let's pretend we can for a minute. Okay, we can prove that human beings exist in a world, they have free will, we have come to that conclusion. Let's pretend that that's reality. How do you make the jump? How do you make the jump and therefore God? There is no logical if-then there. There's not. You can say that, well, free will comes from God, but then you would just be kicking the can down the road a little more. Okay, cool. You've asserted that free will comes from God. Now you need to show that that is the case. You can't just say it and then, now that it's in the ether, we're done. Not all the work's been done. So, the Fox King 69 nice 80. When you tell me that I'm openly hating on Shapiro for his beliefs and they do not align with mine, I'm not hating on Shapiro here. I'm asking Shapiro to do better. I'm asking him to be better. I see Ben Shapiro as somebody who is deftly smart and chooses the easy route, chooses the stupid route, chooses to confirm people's biases and intuition, as opposed to being the type of person to challenge that. He does not look further into things because it is easier not to. That's my opinion. I know that he went to school, and I know that he certainly learned argumentation, rhetoric, and even, things like the Socratic method, standard philosophy. He learned all of that in school. It was part of his education because he went to college. Ben Shapiro is a type of person who should know better and yet demonstrably doesn't, which means we either have a Ben Shapiro who has an agenda, or we have a Ben Shapiro who hasn't taken any of that critical thinking that he loves so much and has actually demonstrated the ability to use it. We either have a Ben Shapiro who knows what he's doing is a farce, or at one point knew what he was doing was a farce and then drank his own Kool-Aid, or we have a Ben Shapiro who is just dumber than I'm willing to give him credit for. One of these two options is true. Maybe something in between. That, Fox King, that is why I cover Ben Shapiro. Because the things he says are demonstrably nonsense. But that's where I got to throw it back to you guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, everybody, please actually use your brains and insert end of video tagline here.